are you? Yeah. Can you turn on your mic?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Thank you.
Happy to be here. How are you?
Yeah. Welcome to the Global Virtual Summit 2025.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, Salmato, before going to the session, I would like to introduce you to our audience. Yeah. Salmato Bell is a transformational coach, resilience architect, and founder of Gifted and initiative that empowers adults to reclaim their strength and confidence. With over a decade of experience in education and development, she had led impactful programs for diverse groups and marginalized youth to unleaders. A survivor of chronic illness for 32 years, she draws on personal adversity to inspire the resilience and possibility. Through authenticity and strategy, she helps others turn setbacks into sources of strength. Salmeto is also a author of Short Woods to Warrior and was recently nominated among the most dynamic leaders in 2025. That was a wonderful bio, Salmeto, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. So, thank you for the introduction and the organization, and welcome everyone. I'm happy to be here among you virtually today. So, let me start by asking you a question. And that question is, what was never meant to be carried? I'll pause here because I think it's a question that deserves a few seconds of pausing and reflection. One of the most powerful that you can ask if you ask me. And that's a question that is today directed at you in your capacity as a leader in your workplace, of course, but also as a leader in your other communities, in your families. And more importantly, it's a question that I'm directing to you as an individual, as the woman, as the man, as the person that you are deep within. We grow up in this world of AI today and data and a world that is complex and that is above anything else full of hidden expectations, unspoken rules, and unset timelines. And as we get to become an adult, we start feeling heavier. And I'm not talking about the weight that you can see on your scales, right? I wouldn't dare to go to go that way. I'm talking about what's weighing on your shoulders, what's weighing on your brain, and the thing that you can feel on your nerves, on your nervous system. And you might not be able to see it. Others might not be able to see it either. But what I can guarantee is that they are able to feel it. And you're able to feel it too. Your body knows. So that's okay, no? Because we all grow up having those marks along the way and along that journey that is life. That's okay until the moment that those weight that I call wounds start slowly eroding who you are and kind of overpowering, overshadowing everything else that you are. That's the moment where those wounds, those weights start coming in the way of the way you make decisions, coming in the way of how you relate to others, your relationships, of how you communicate. And that's where, to me, there is the need to start ringing an alarm here. So you're gonna start making the connection with leadership, right? Because if wounds and weights become our identity, then leadership cannot be our identity anymore. And slowly but surely, it starts becoming something that we do instead of something that we are. And when leadership becomes a role instead of an identity, that is when, to me, it's becoming difficult and key to address those wounds and help turn them into strength, right? So, if you allow me, in my experience working with people, leaders in diverse communities, in diverse environments, from United Nations leaders to NGOs to private sector, to other students and young people living in unprivileged environments, what I've seen is that leadership is not tied to age or gender, but it's tied to identity. And that's the reason of this talk today, right? Turning the weight, fears, and wounds that you carry into your superpowers so that you can get to become the most authentic and resilient version of yourself and the leader that you are. I'd like to share a bit of my experience. Let me see if I'm able to share my screen. Can you confirm if you're able to see my screen? Maybe Melinda Roy, are you able to let me know, because I might not hear other participants. Yes, okay. So let me put it here. I'll start with sharing a bit of my journey. And that journey has taught me, that life comes with all these expectations that are unseen. So by age 18, we are all dreaming of, all so dreamed of parental freedom and getting to that age where finally you become independent and, you can be who you truly are. Well, for me, I lost my dad at 16. And by the way, that was also from an illness related to workplace induced stress. And so, yes, can you see my slides?
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Could you please share your presentation slides?
Yes, I'm sharing them. Are you not able to see them?
You are sharing Global Virtual Summit 2025 presentation, Salmato. Could you please share your PPT presentation?
Yes, that's what I'm seeing on my screen. And if you're not able to see my slide, then that's fine. I'll just proceed without them, if that's okay for you.
Okay. No problem.
Okay. So yeah, age 16, that's when I started to really face the fact that life might not be that linear or progression, and that resilience is something that you're faced with from early on. And then by age 20, you learn that, you have your life fully ahead of you when you're healthy, and the sky is the limit. Or in this day and age, not even the sky is the limit, but maybe the galaxy or the universe or other planets are the limit. But by age 12, I had a stroke that almost put an end to it. And so that was my very first experience of how a setback can completely reshape who you are and your path. And then, you go on and on and on, and you get that diploma, maybe at 25, right? And you enter the workplace. And then when you enter the workplace, you also subtly start downtoning who you are and not telling others that I learned to manage global teams and global projects by age 21. And then one of my favorite, if you're a woman, by age 30, you're supposed to have husband and house and kids all ticked off on that perfect checklist, right? Well, I'm turning 33 very soon and still have to figure out the husband and kids part of that equation. So what does that tell you? Either I am very bad at math, or maybe it's just that life is something else altogether. Maybe life is not about having the perfect checklist ticked. Maybe it's more a journey that teaches us to embrace imperfections and irregularities and not always fitting into that mold. And then we have to redefine our relationship with those wounds, those marks that we all get along the way and that we all carry. In my case, those wounds took various shapes and forms. Like I told you, they took the shape of a stroke very early on, of trauma, of pain, of job loss, of loneliness, of burnout, depression, even pain, heartbreak. It took many shapes and forms, and I'm pretty sure that in your stories too, you have those weights and those wounds and those fears that you're carrying. So now, what do we do with them? We try to find the gift that's inside, because all these setbacks, all these wounds are, in my opinion, the layers that allow you to access what's deeper within yourself. And that's your resilience, that's your authenticity, that's your confidence, that's your self-esteem, that's your freedom eventually. And so that's what I preach, and that's what I offer. It's to really redefine the way we look at our setbacks, our hardships, and really learn to turn them into our superpowers, our strength. So this was my story. And again, if you're anything like me, and I would take the guess that you are, if you were drawn into this session and the title of this session, in your story as well, you're going to find that, you know, you're being on that continuum that life is, and that takes you from a stage of surviving sometimes most of the times I would even say, to a state of being where you feel fully present and fully aligned, fully confident, and sometimes another state that I call the state of becoming, when you're kind of transitioning towards something else. And in that life continuum, you also get marked, you get your own wounds. So guess what? So does your boss. So do your peers. So do your teammates. And so do your business partners, right? And you know that hire that you just made, or that person that you just had join your team, and that you're really excited about, you know, 15 years of experience, amazing strategies, wonderful communication skills. Well, guess what? You just hired 15 years of experience. That's probably more than 30 years of joys, 30 years of wounds, 30 years of dreams, 30 years of fears, of insecurities, of marks, right? And so that's who you are hire. And what we see in organizations, regardless of the organization, is that we often tend to look at leader as per the role that they wear, right? That's the leader, and that's who she and who he and who they are. They are a manager of that team, and they are that job title. But we tend to forget probably what's the best kept secret in the industry, and that is that leaders, before anything else, are actually human beings. They are human beings. And so when you hire someone, when you work with someone, you're not working with the hat that they are wearing. You're working with the human being and everything that they carry. So now that this is said and done, what do we do and how do you take it from here? What I propose is for you to understand 4 hidden patterns that really help explain why it's such a challenge for us to turn our wounds into wisdom, as I like to call it, our struggles into strength, or our setbacks into strength, and then try to identify small things that you can do, small actions that you can take to really start redefining the relationship with yourself, with your own wounds, but also in your workplaces, and help other people do the same for themselves. So it's a pity that you cannot see the presentation, but I'll just explain them to you quickly. And the first one, the first hidden pattern, has to do with our very own nature as a human being. And that is the fact that we are wired for survival. So from the moment we were born, the very primal part of our brain still operates as it did thousands of years ago, when we were still at a threat of becoming the prey to a predator if we did not have a tribe to kind of like have our backs, right? So that's how the primary part of the brain still operates. And we are wired, therefore, to belong, to have that sense of connection, and to be accepted by the group. And here, that's where the struggle starts, because the need to belong has us, from very early on, immediately sense and detect which behaviors, which actions, which thoughts, which words, which attitudes will allow us to get that acceptance from others, from the group, will allow us to get that sense of belonging and to be accepted. What does that? What that does is that it also tells us immediately what behaviors, what thoughts, what actions, what words, what ways of carrying ourselves will take us further away from that acceptance from the group. And so, therefore, what we start slowly but surely doing as we grow up is suppressing the parts of ourselves that represent a threat to that acceptance from the group. And so as Dr. Gabor Mate, who is a clinician and psychotherapist specialized in addiction, stress, and childhood development, but also working with adults, what he says is that at some point, the body starts registering all the parts that we're suppressing in ourselves. And that turns out to become illnesses, diseases, even death sometimes. And so he says very rightly, you can have the pain of suppressing yourself, or you can have the pain of being yourself and not being accepted. You have to decide, what kind of pain would you rather have? And that's the first question I'd like to direct to you today. I mean, the second question, right? What kind of pain would you rather have? Because if we're wired towards acceptance and external validation, it means that it takes a conscious and active decision from us to stop getting down that lane and just said, wait a minute, I'll just take a step back here and I'll actually take a different path, and the path of my own acceptance and my own internal validation, right? And I choose that type of pain instead of the one that comes with suppressing parts of myself. The second one, the second hidden pattern that I like to share is an interesting one, and it's really something that I see in my work as a coach with leaders, with non-leaders, with young people, with adults, in any organization and any type of settings. And as we start our relationship, the coaching relationship, early on, I will have the person pause and just, ask them, in what you just shared now, what is the voice of others and what is your own voice? And usually that question comes with a pause and then with, what do you mean? Something like that. And what I mean is actually just that, in what you just shared now, in the needs that you just expressed that you have, in the wants and the desires that are yours, in the obstacles that you face, in the energy that you have, in what you want to do, in everything that you do and that you are from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed at night, what is the voice of others and what is your own voice? And if we think about being a leader, like an identity-based leader and not just the role of a leader, and if we think of being our most authentic and confident and resilient selves, how can we do so if we're not able to distinguish what's our true self, our own voice, and what's coming from the noise, let's call it like that, the noise of others. Others may be in that sense parents, children, manager, peers, company, society rules, whatever others mean to you. And that's what I was saying early on. Expectations shape us more than we know. The third one, the third hidden pattern, I think this one might be complex without the presentation, but I'll just tell you a bit more of my story. So the presentation is actually showing a picture of me where I'm happy, I'm smiling, I have great hair, I did my makeup, I'm dressed nicely, and it's just, I guess, the picture of happiness and brightness and light, and that's who I thought why I was years ago, right? I thought this was me, but that wasn't until I discovered a different facet of me, if you wish. And that's the facet of me, that's a different picture, taken in January 2024, which was a year and a half ago. And that's a picture where I am at the hospital, unable to carry the weight of my own body on my legs. I'm totally shrunk, lost 15 kilograms, lost my hair, had just received chemotherapy and full body radiation due to my chronic illness that I was born with. And all of a sudden, that picture of brightness that I used to think was me completely disappeared. And I was so stuck in my own body, in my own pain, that I could not even remember what it was like to be the brightness and the light. I did not relate anymore to my job title because, of course, I was in a long sick leave. I could not relate anymore to the concept of being a woman because I had lost my hair, I'd lost my curves, my period, and I stopped identifying with my name because, when you spend so much time at the hospital, the staff there, they call you by your last name. So it was always, oh, how are you feeling today, Miss Balde? And What do you want to eat, Miss Balde? We're taking you to the scan this morning, Miss Balde. So eventually my own first name, Salimatu, stopped even resonating with me. And when you're losing all your fluids and you have, I'm sorry to say, but you have like 8 diarrheas per day, every day, and you have to have someone come and clean you because you're not even able to sustain the weight of your own arms, you also lose your own sense of dignity, of personal space. And I stopped even related with the concept of being a human being. So, who are you when you're not your gender, and when you're not your physical appearance, when you're not even your name, when you're not your job title, when you're not your values? Because so stuck in my pain and in my own body, I had no space at all for others, right? So I lost my values of empathy and of being a provider, being a giver. So that's one key powerful question. Who are you? We are asked that many, many times in our lives, but we tend to respond, I'm Salimatu and I'm a learning and development professional at the United Nations. I'm Salimatu and I'm a certified coach, right? But that's not me. That's probably the most external layer of the onion if my identity were an onion. And that's the same for you. And that's the same for the people that you work with. And the last hidden pattern that I would like to share with you, Hippocrates said it first and very well. It's that we live in a society where our mind, our bodies, our souls are seen as separate entities. They're completely disconnected. And we go through the world and we go through our workplaces and our entire lives separating those. So when I'm feeling bad, oh, I don't know, I have a headache or something is painful in my body, I will go to the doctor and they will treat my body. When I'm feeling unhealthy in my mind, probably I'll take a coach. When I'm looking for soul connection, probably I'll turn to faith or religion or spiritual work. But we never truly integrate these and operate in the world as fully aligned human beings, which to me is the definition of health. Health is as simple as feeling and being fully aligned in your soul, your mind, and your body. And so now, what can you do concretely in your families, in your communities, in your workplaces, to help people around you and yourself become more authentic, become more resilient, and be truly turning setbacks into strength? I work with a framework. Again, it's a pity that I cannot share my slides, but I'm happy to share them afterwards if you're interested. And I work with a model that I called HEAL. It's dash ELL. And that's the intersection between health and illness. And I see the question here, what is the greatest source of true resilience based on your experience and journey? And that's actually something that is related to the HEAL concept. For me, the greatest source of resilience is first our own bodies that we live in and day out for 20, 30, 60, 80, 100 years, and that we often tend to underestimate, right? We're pretty quick at saying, oh, I'm too fat, I'm too short, I'm too skinny, I'm too this, my skin doesn't look good. But how often do we just stop and look at what our bodies are doing for us every single day? When I was at the hospital, I completely understood the power of my body, because sometimes, as an external observer to my own body, I would just watch fascinated how my legs would slowly start moving and take me to the bicycle in the room and start spinning for 10 minutes when my mind had shut down for a long, long time. And so the concept of heal, H-heal, is the intersection between health and health in the broader sense, meaning what makes you healthy, what makes you aligned, what makes you thrive, where are you in your healthiest state of happiness, and that intersection with illness. Illness, again, as in the broader sense, right? So, what are your wounds? What are the weights that you carry that make you unique, that explain your stories, that explain your values and everything that you thrive for in your life? That intersection is probably where the deepest conversation happen, where true resilience is found, and when I believe true relationships are built. And so to the question, what is the most crucial first step in developing leaders in global organizations? I would say it starts with the mindset shift, right? So when you start understanding that leaders are leaders, yes, of course, but before that, they're human beings. And when you're managing conflict, when you're managing difficulties, when you're managing deadlines that are not met, or anything really in the workplace, what you're managing is not the leader that didn't meet that deadline, the leader that doesn't know how to manage conflict. You're managing a human being with their own weights that act as blockages, as limitations to their full potential and capacities. And so, how many trainings today in the workplace address not only the hat and the role of leader, but also the human being behind that? So, that would be to me the first crucial step, that mindset shift, and redefining the other aspects of the leaders that you have in your teams and making space for those identities to be fully welcome in the workplace. And so I can share, I think I have 1 more minute. I can share another framework that I work with at Gifted, which is the name of my company. And that's also the name of the model that I use. It's an acronym. And the very first element that I work with that can also help you in your own personal lives and also in the workplace is energy, E for energy. And energy encompasses that machine that we all live in every single day, and that is our greatest um, advocate, I would say. Because without this functioning, you cannot do anything else, right? Without this, you're very quick to lose your job title. You're very quick to lose your sense of freedom. You're very quick to lose your sense of confidence. So that's your first asset. And so energy looks at your body, it looks at your instinct from which we're so often disconnected. And I attended a talk a few weeks ago, a month ago, that I really enjoyed. The speaker was telling us how in the workplace, as women, we tend to be disconnected from our feminine energy and stepping into that masculine energy that is required for decision making, for managing stress, for sometimes dismissing emotions so that we can act from a very rational brain. And so what that does is that it disconnects us from our instinct. So energy also looks at the connection that you have with your environment and your instinct. The second pillar, the I, is identity. And I covered a lot today about identity in this talk. And what you can do very simply is start changing the expectations that you have when you ask someone, who are you? Right? And maybe start introducing people in your team a bit differently than, oh, she's Sarah and she's the head of HR. Oh, he's Mark and he's an IT assistant, right? Okay, they're that, but what else are they? What does resilience mean to you on a personal level? So resilience to me on a personal level is now, it's like a pillar of my identity, because something I didn't mention is that I've had that chronic illness for 32 years. I'm 32 years old, but I really started talking about it only last year when I had to take that long break and go to the hospital for so many months and lost completely my identity and my body, to the point that I couldn't even walk, like I told you. So resilience really doesn't lie in some like some external concept anymore for me. Resilience is really a part of my identity and something that I treasure. And resilience also, to me, comes with the idea of being authentic. Because if you're just seeking resilience without authenticity, probably you're gonna end up in a path that is gonna be more painful than rewarding for you. So now I guess I'm fully working on embracing that authenticity, trying to share this message that I have with other people. And really, resilience is about seeing that everything I've been through, grief and loss and the stroke when I was a young kid, and the illness and the pain and the burnout and the job losses that I've had, are what make me unique and are really what explain, my purpose in life and my strength and everything that I can contribute to the world. So I see that you're back on, Melinda Roy. Please let me know if I'm already out of time.
Yeah, Selimeto, that was a fantastic presentation. And I think our audience will so gain a lot of knowledge from your presentation.
Thank you.
And thank you for your valuable time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.